Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Research methods. Today we'll talk about how to organize a scientific document. And we talk about the scientific document, that means a research paper more specifically. I'll be discussing the several different aspects of the organization of a scientific document. And in that organization, we'll be mainly talking about the content part as well as the structure part as well. Let's move on. First, you need to understand what kind of the scientific documents are there. First one is the research paper, and the other one can be a dissertation. Um, there's a bit difference between both of them, the research paper and the dissertation. The mainly is the dissertation is based on several different chapters, and then the chapters are organized based on a specific theme. Whereas the research paper, it is divided into several different sections, and mainly we'll be talking about the research paper specifically here, and this part we'll cover later on in our upcoming lecture slides. A research paper or model and style. This is the basically the division of the sections of a research paper. Usually it is based on the APA style. APA basically a style that defines the way you organize your content, and more specifically the content as well as the font and other citation, several different combination of things. So mainly, your research paper is divided into the following sections. First one is the title, abstract, introduction, related work, methods, results, and discussions. Then you evaluate your methods, and in the end, you draw a conclusion. Then you put your references, and in the end, if you have some material to upload in your research paper, that will be added in the appendices section. So each section basically has a theme and has an objective. It's not that you randomly put any content in any of the sections. Each section must be organized in a scientific way. I will tell you what kind of the content you can cover in these sections. I hope that will be beneficial for you. First one is the title. We'll be discussing about it. Title basically reflects your whole paper. If your title is catchy, the people will start reading about your research paper, and it will appeal, and it will convince the other readers so that they can open your paper, and so that they can read about your paper. Even it is also very convincing for the evaluators or uh, those who will be evaluating your dissertation or the research paper. So you must convince them through your title. If your title is catchy, definitely people will be convinced to read about it. How you can organize your title? The naming your research is an important part of your research proposal or even your paper as well. I'm talking in general in here. Basically, the title is composed of 25 words or less. So what should it contain in it? It should tell the user what you intend to research. Now follow these highlighted words, what and how. So that is very important in the title. What you intend to research and how you intend to do it. When we talk about the what is your contribution and how you're going to do it, and that is your specifically the method that you have introduced uh, in your finding or the new proposal, that what kind of the method your research is based on and what you're going to achieve it, what kind of the issue was there in the existing literature that you have exploited actually. So the next bullet is important. The way you organize a title, it should composed of three things. If you consider these three things and you arrange those three things in any order, that will form your title. What it is all about, the first one is the approach, technique, or the method used. What type of the method you are going to use to achieve your goals. Second one is, what is the problem you are actually discussing in your literature or in your paper? What was the problem? And the third one is the area or the environment where you are working on. So when you combine these three things, as I said earlier, the organization or the order may vary. You will have to readjust the order so that it could form a cohesive and cohesive sentence, so that it could reflect a meaningful sentence. So first, when we talk about the approach, technique, and the method used, for example, you're working on some AI-based technique, and you have used that technique, AI. More specifically, the AI technique is the NLP, that is the natural language processing. So you have actually proposed a new contribution, and in which you are using NLP as a method of the AI. So what are the problem you are working on? That is, for example, privacy or the access control management. And the third one is you are working for the social networks or the clouds or any of the environment. Okay. When you have specifically decided these three things, now you can make a meaningful title of it. For example, your title can be NLP based access control management in social networks. So that becomes your title. Now it covers the three things. It contains your approach, and that is the NLP. So you're solving a problem of access control management, and the third one is the you're working in the social network environment. So NLP based privacy, NLP based access control management in social networks. It can have several different forms. You can choose several different words for it. Even I've just given an example. Even there can be a more than one titles as well based on these three elements which are required. If element is a part of some project, then it is given some short name which can also be a part of the title. For example, you're working for some organization, or you're working on some specific project. It should have some name like SOSPIM or something like this. Should it that actually the name of the project, uh, it should come before the title. Then you put a colon and then rest of your title. This is the way you can organize your title as well. Okay, next one is abstract. Abstract basically it has a specific purpose, and as I say, the abstract basically it convinces your readers. It should be written in such a convincing way that anyone who reads your abstract and must be convinced to open up your paper as well, because most of the researchers, when they actually try to find the more relevant research paper for their research, what they do is they go for the title, and if the title is convincing, then they will read about the abstract. They won't go into the details of your research paper. They will download it, and they will go into the details. That won't happen until and unless they are convinced through your abstract, because most of the publishers, they publish your abstract only so that it could convince the readers. You should organize it in a more scientific way. Until and unless you have not organized it in a scientific way, you cannot convince the reader. So what the abstract should be composed of? Basically, you must understand the basic notion of the abstract, why it is required. It has some specific purpose. And what is the purpose? It basically elaborates the summary of your entire document. I have highlighted these two words, summary and the entire document. Summary can be of several different forms. For example, there can be a summary of your approach or the method as well. But right here in the abstract, you must be writing the summary of your entire document. What is the entire document? What it is basically composed of? That I already actually have shown you in the previous slide. This is basically your whole research paper or the document. It is composed of all these three, all these sections. So in the abstract, you must be actually writing about all these sections. Isn't it interesting? Um because it is the summary of the entire document. So basically, in few sentences, you are actually writing your whole paper, the basic crux or of your whole paper. That's why it is called a summary of the entire document in few sentences. So now that is an art. That is a scientific. I mean, we call it a scientific procedure. the scientific process. The writing basically is a scientific process. Why I call it scientific? Because it is based on some scientific procedure. So how you can write, we'll talk about it later on. I'll tell you several different tips and tricks through which you can organize your abstract. How we can write the summary of the entire document in few sentences. We'll talk about in our upcoming slides. So basically, the abstract is around 250 or 300 in length. As far as we talk about the scientific papers, it is basically around 250 or 300. So in 250 or 300 words, you're going to write about the summary of your all sections of the documents. Demonstrate to the reader the most important parts of each of the sections of the research paper. So here is the tip. Uh, you can talk about the most important parts of your sections because you cannot write the details about each and every sections. Just in one or two sentences, uh, you are actually covering the whole section. So how you can do it? Just focus on the important parts of the section. I'll tell you how you can do that. Always useful to write the abstract in the last. So that is actually a recommendation. Whenever you try to write about the abstract, write it at the end of your paper. Write the other sections, then you can write about the entire, because when you will write the whole document, then you will be able to write the abstract because you're writing the summary of all sections. Until and unless you don't write, how you can write the summary? So that is basically useful, as most of the researchers they do while doing that. Okay, now we'll talk about what kind of the content your abstract can contain. So you can organize your abstract in the following different sections. Even there are some journals those demand to organize your abstract in such kind of sections, because otherwise it is written in flow in one paragraph, most probably, or maybe more than one paragraph as well. So in the abstract, basically you divide the content into several different these sections. I mean, when I'm talking about the section, that doesn't mean you specifically mention them as a different section, because as I said earlier, you can organize it in different sections or in a flow as well. So the first few sentences must cover the context of your paper. What is the context? When we talk about the context, we'll see what kind of actually the area you are working on. So let me first go through all those sections or the divisions of your abstract. First one, few sentences about the context. Then you write about the objective, what you are going to achieve. Then you talk about your methods. When we talk about the method, that means your method. Then the few sentences about your results, and at the end, the conclusion. Now, in that case, the conclusion of your highlighted problem, not about the document, because you are writing here the summary of the entire document. Here is the conclusion, what you have concluded out of your findings, or what were your findings, and so you can mention them in the conclusion. Definitely, you will be writing a few sentences here. Okay, when we talk about the context is basically the area you are going to work, more specifically the area and their current issues you will be working on. So that is the context of your paper. So what you are actually going to do, what type of the or what kind of the area you will be working on, and what are the issues in those areas you will be focusing on. Just okay. When you have written the context, that can be one sentence, there can be more than one sentences, for example two sentences, because you will have to summarize it, and we'll talk about summarize, as already I have specifically mentioned that you need to cover it in 250 or 300 words. So you cannot write more details, just one or the two sentences that will cover the context of your paper. So in the context, you talk about the area. For example, as I mentioned earlier, you're working in the social networks, you should write few sentences about the social network, what it is all about. People share the information, they interact with each other, such kind of things. And then when they interact with each other, what are the issues then during the interaction? So the privacy issues are there, because when you share something in the social network, so you need to have some specific access control management, so that you can manage your content, so that who can see and who cannot see. So these are the issues, for example, the privacy issues. So that covers the context. Then in the objective, what you are going to do to solve the problems highlighted in the context. Very important point. One more important thing I will like to focus on. You need to maintain the actually the flow of these headings. You cannot interchange them. You cannot write the methods at the beginning, objective at the end, conclusion in the middle. So that won't be the case. You need to write these things in a flow. It should be in a flow, because when it is written in a flow, it will be easy for the reader to understand them, what you're talking about. So that is the general context. Then you are going toward the specificities of your research paper, because in the context you're talking about the area, and in the area you have highlighted the issues. Now in the objective part, as you can see, it is actually the coherent with the previous part, that is the context. What you're going to do to solve the problems highlighted in the context. The problem is the privacy problem was the privacy issues, for example. So what you're going to do to solve the problems, right? So in that part you will be writing about the objective. For example, we'll resolve the privacy issues, so that the people can manage their access control. In general, not the specialized details of how you are going to do that. You just need to write the objective, not the details of your methods. Method will come right here, where you can write few details about it. So in the objective, for example, it can be a one sentence, can be more two sentences, not more than that. Then later on, you will be discussing about your method, how you will achieve your objectives. So your objective is to solve the privacy issues in social networks, right? That is your objective. So how you're going to achieve that? So right here, you will be talking about the method. For example, uh, that is the method you are actually using to solve that problem. For example, you're working on ontologies, taxonomies, for example, on AI-based methods. You will be talking about them about here. So I am actually using the NLP-based technique that will read the content, and accordingly, it will be the intelligent enough solution, so that it could decide that this particular information, who can access it and who cannot. So that is your method. So write few sentences, maybe one, two, or three, not more than that. So later on, then you discuss your methods, method to achieve the objective. As you can see, there is a coherency between these all different parts. First, the context. The context actually will have some issues, and you are actually defined your objective about the context. As you can see, the problem highlighted in the context. Then you have the method. The method is actually based on your objective. So there is a coherency in all these sections. Then at the end, the results. What do you achieve from your methods? So you will actually draw the conclusion that my method actually it is outperforming. This is basically the results highlights your novelty factors. Novelty factors are the kind of factors actually which are the new in your approach. For example, in your because there were the NLP based methods proposed by the several different researchers as well, but the kind of NLP method you are proposing, it must has or it must have some kind of novelty factors. For example, the performance, you're increasing the performance in the using the NLP based technique. uh, your method is more robust, and such kind of the novelty factors that makes your work new. So in the results, you will be highlighting those factors that we have achieved these objectives through our methods. At the end, you draw the conclusion, conclude that your approach solved the highlighted problem in general. So we have actually proposed that technique, and it solved the privacy issues in a specific environment. This is how it works. I will explain these all, what should I call it, sections or the different divisions of your abstract in with the help of few examples. Okay, I have taken this example from one of this reference paper. It is organized. It is not organized in these kind of sections. Actually, I have taken them out by reading them and driving their specific division. First one is the context. No, in the context, as I have already discussed, that we'll be talking about the area. So right here, as you can see, in social networks, that is the area he's going to work on it. Users quite usually disclose sensitive information about themselves by publishing messages. No, he is actually creating an environment that there is a kind of thing that is a social networks in which what people do, they disclose the sensitive information about themselves by publishing the messages. However, they are usually unable to properly manage the access to this sensitive information due to the following issues. Now, as you can see, first he's talked about the environment. No, he's talking about the problem in that environment, right? Uh, usually unable to properly manage the access to the sensitive information because this, as he has drawn the concern that the people publish the information in the social networks. No, later on, no, he is actually talking about what is the issue in this environment. People cannot manage their access to their sensitive information. And what are those actually the problems or the issues through which they cannot manage? That is the rigidness of the access control mechanism implemented by social networks. And the second one is the user's lack of technical knowledge of these mechanisms. So actually he has drawn actually the main concern in this particular environment. Now in the objective part, uh, he will be actually talking about the objective, how he is going to solve these problems which are mentioned in the context. To tackle the above mentioned limitation, you see, there is a coherency between these two things, context and the objective. He has mentioned some problems here, and now he's talking about how he's going to solve them, or what is the objective that definitely he will be solving these problems. To tackle the above limitations, in this paper, we propose a dynamic, transparent, and privacy-driven access control mechanism for social network textual publications. You can see so far he is not talking about his method. He is discussing it in general, how what is the objective he's going to achieve. He's going to achieve the privacy issues or privacy driven access control management in social network textual publications. So the main concern is the textual publication, the things that are written in the text, not about the images and the videos, such kind of things. So he is actually focused on his problem. The notion of privacy driven is achieved by analyzing the semantics of the message to be published and according to that accessing their degree of sensitivity. So that is the objective, what he is going to do, right? I hope you got the point. Okay, what about the other sections? Method. In order to achieve our objective, the proposed system relies on an automatic semantic annotation mechanism that, by using the knowledge base and linguistic tools, it is able to associate the meaning to the information to be published. Okay, now you have actually uh, got the basic theme about the method. Now he is actually introducing his methods only. He's not going into the details of his methods, right? He's just talking about that what kind of actually the method he will be using to solve those problems which are highlighted earlier in order to achieve our objective. The proposed, you see, no, he is actually relating with the previous one, the objective. The proposed system relies on an automatic semantic annotation mechanism. So the basic problem, basic actually, the solution relies on the automatic semantic annotation mechanism by using a knowledge base and linguistic. These are the things that he will be using in his method. Be able to associate the meaning to the information to be published. Okay, what the results he will achieve by means of this annotation relating with the previous one. Our mechanism automatically detect the information that is sensitive according to the privacy requirement of the data publisher with regard to the type of reader that may access such data. Okay, so these are the results he have achieved. Finally, our access control mechanism automatically creates sanitized version of the publication according to the type of reader that accesses them. We also discuss the feasibility of the proposed system and illustrates through a real example. So these are results that he have achieved. In the method, he will be actually reading about the text. and based on the text, he will drive the semantics or the meanings through these tools, right? And then in the results, he will be actually managing the access based on the published content. And in the end, he has drawn a conclusion. Our proposal, which can be integrated in all existing social and provide automatic seamless protection against the published content. So actually, this is the uh, conclusion part of it. Okay, I will uh, finish this video right here, and I will publish the second part, in which we'll be discussing how you can organize the introduction and what type of the content you can write in it. I'll be discussing it in more detail in my second video. Thank you very much.